When we're afraid of being judged by others, we will typically do a number of things in order to avoid that ever happening. Those things are like dimming ourselves, dulling ourselves down, becoming a little less so that we don't stand out, self-adjusting to fit in to the crowd, holding ourselves back so that we're not seen and we're not heard. All of that is the exact opposite of everything your soul wants to do. All of that is the suppression into the small self, and what your soul wants is the expression into the full, authentic self. When you think about fear of judgment, of course nobody wants to be judged. Who wants to be judged, right? Nobody likes it. It's not pleasant. It happens, and it's not enjoyable. But there's a big difference between accepting that the world can be a judgmental place and then living your life anyway, living it fully, versus being in fear of being judged and making your world small in order to avoid that ever happening. I want you to think about it like this. There is a route that you need in order to break out of fear of judgment. Think about a tree that has shallow roots. A tree with shallow roots is easily knocked over by stormy weather and big winds. A boat that doesn't have an anchor is easily tossed around in wavy seas and stormy weather. And a person who is not deeply rooted and anchored and connected inside of themselves to their authentic soulful self and to the higher reality to which they belong is not going to feel very stable in this world. We will end up feeling like a tree with shallow roots or a boat without an anchor, getting tossed around and knocked over by the external environment and the weather of the day being the way other people are feeling and behaving. And it easily sways us and sends us on a mental and emotional high seas, so to speak. When we understand this and we understand the exact pattern that is playing out, practically speaking, of judgment in the world happens, this is what it triggers in me, this is therefore what I do as a result in order to cope, and we unpick that and we undo the pattern and we instead anchor you inside of yourself in a way that you will not be shaken and knocked around by what's going on outside of you, then you're free to live your life. Then you will freely go about expressing yourself and doing what you want to do and not being in the fear of judgment. It doesn't mean you are okay with being judged. Nobody is. Nobody wants that. But there's a big difference. So we're going to shift you out of being in fear of judgment and into acceptance that that's a part of life and I'm free and safe to fully express myself no matter what. You're listening to Practical Spirituality with B, the podcast with spiritual advice for your everyday life, helping you align with your soul so you can live with purpose, fulfillment, and magic. I'm Bernadette Logue. You can call me B, and I'm excited to share this episode with you. So, we're going to start this episode by keeping things real. I'm trying to record this podcast episode, and there is noisy police cars and ambulances making noises every time I try to record. So if you hear traffic and you hear noisy ambulances, that is because I am in the middle of a concrete jungle, and so be it. And it is making me laugh because I remember when we lived in Bali, where we lived for a year, and I used to have a love-hate relationship with the roosters because I would be trying to record YouTube videos and the damn roosters would not shut up and they kept interrupting my videos. And if it wasn't the roosters, it would be my dog, and that's life, right? So here we are in this noisy world and we're making a podcast. So let's dive in. We're talking about fear of being judged. Now, I'm going to break it down for you. We're going to run it out like a pattern so you can see exactly what happens when we're living in fear of being judged, where it comes from, what goes on, see it crystal clear, playing out, and then we can interrupt it and we can come to a root level solution that will have you go in a new direction, a new trajectory. So as we have already established, judgment happens. Not going to lie to you. You going out and being fully self-expressed, sometimes people are going to judge you because that's what human beings do. So welcome to the world. But you don't have to live in fear of being judged. You can make peace with the fact that this happens, and you can fully self-express, and you are allowed to not like it when someone judges you, but it's not going to knock you over and it's not going to harm you. When we are afraid of being judged, here's usually what is underneath that. Fear is not the real issue. Fear is a symptom. And I'm going to explain why that is in a moment, because we're going to get to the root of what this issue really is. So fear is coming up about being judged. It's not the root, it's the symptom. And fear of being judged is also not a confidence issue. This is not like, oh, I'm not confident, so therefore I get fearful and nervous, and so I've just got to fix my confidence, okay? We go a bit deeper than that. When we're afraid of being judged, we're afraid of being hurt, we're afraid of being not understood, which hits a pain point that I don't belong and I don't fit in and people don't get me. We have an underlying fear of being, because of misunderstood, misperceived, so not being taken for who we truly are. We have a concern about being ridiculed, embarrassed, or shamed, which is an even bigger than just being judged. And we also can have a fear of being rejected, which is again hits a pain point of being alone and being on the outside. Those things are also not the core root. Okay, so we've got fear on the surface. Underneath, why are we afraid of being judged? Because we don't want to be misunderstood, misperceived, ridiculed, shamed, rejected, embarrassed. But what is underneath that? Why does that even come up for some people and not other people? And the answer is that there is a raw nerve inside. There is a pain point which that judgment is hitting. And those pain points are really deep-seated core beliefs about who we are. And usually if we have a belief of, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not complete, I'm not supported, I'm alone, I'm not understood, I'm not acceptable, I'm not lovable. And then we go into the world and we try to be our full self, but we're constantly afraid of being judged. We're constantly afraid of being judged because we know if someone judges us, it's going to be really painful because it's going to put a finger in that wound. It's going to prod us in the wound of, I already didn't feel good enough. I already didn't feel worthy. I already didn't feel like I belonged. I already didn't love and accept myself, and I don't feel like other people can love and accept me as I am. So I'm walking around with an open wound. It's no wonder I'm afraid of being judged, because that would be like somebody sticking their finger in my raw wound. So what do we do to avoid that happening? We avoid being judged. Well, how do you avoid being judged in this world? And the answer is you keep your mouth shut and you stay small so that you're not seen, you're not heard, you don't stand out. The chances of somebody having an opportunity to judge you decrease markedly. You end up saying to yourself things like, I'm not X enough, so I will adjust myself. Or I'm too Y, I'm too much this way, so I'll adjust myself. I will play myself down, I will dim myself down, I will dull down, I will avoid, I will hide, I will hold back, because that is safer, because then there's less opportunity for people to see me, hear me, judge me, which I'm afraid of happening. So therefore I'm saving myself the pain of being misunderstood, ridiculed, embarrassed, rejected. Therefore I will not have the underlying limiting belief triggered and up in my face again of I'm not lovable, acceptable, worthy, enough, safe, belonging. And we just run a cycle like this. And so when you look at it like that, you can say, well, let me reverse the equation then. If I was to believe that I was enough and I was complete and I was worthy and I do belong and I am supported and I am acceptable and lovable and I actually love and accept myself, then I don't like people being judgmental, but I also don't take it the same way because I'm not getting triggered and I'm not having a raw wound pained by people's opinions and people's behavior. Instead, when people are judging, I'm standing here in my clarity of self and I'm realizing they're having a bad day, or they're having a bad life, maybe, or they like their own opinion, or they truly believe their opinion, and they are completely welcome to it, because what other people say and do is not about you. What other people say and do is not about me. It is a projection of their inner world, right? They are having beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. They are projecting them, having their say, and that is coming out of their worldview, which is why some people love stuff and some people don't love that stuff, because everybody is allowed to have a different opinion. The problem is not the opinions people are having. The problem is what you make the opinion mean. And if we walk around in the world with an unstable sense of self, we don't have deep roots like a tree, we don't have an anchor down like the boat, then we are adrift because we are not deeply rooted, anchored, and connected to our own self, to our own truth, and to our own higher reality. And therefore, we're easily swayed and knocked around. And so it's just a really smart coping strategy to hide. And as children, when you pick up beliefs like, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, there must be something wrong with me because XYZ is happening, or XYZ is not happening, or mum and dad are not doing what I need, I'm not getting what I need, so therefore must be something about me. And we pick up all these beliefs. When you go out into the world and you're a little person, you are really smart. You pick up coping strategies. And coping strategies will typically look like, don't be seen, don't be heard, hide, play it down, hold yourself back because it's safer. Or self-adjust, adapt, fit in, do what others want, meet other people's expectations, people please, because that will also avoid my exposure to judgment, which then means I get to avoid rejection and sadness and not being understood and all the pain that comes with that. So when you practically look at how you address something like fear of being judged, you want to think about it like this. I can address the fear, okay? I can do emotional healing, I can do diaphragmatic breathing to calm my stress response, to do some regulation of my nervous system. I can use emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping, creating a reduction in the stress response, the fight-flight response, regulating my nervous system. Fabulous techniques. We can do all of these things, very helpful and very important for coming out of fear. Then we can also deal with some mind mastery about being judged. We can shift our perspective about what we think about people's opinions, etc., etc. However, I like root level solutions to address root level issues, because then we get lasting change, right? And then we don't have to continuously boomerang back dealing with these symptomatic issues that flow from these deeper challenges that we have. For example, dealing with these beliefs at their root. And when you want to live in the world and shift out of fear of being judged to making peace with the fact some people will judge and you're going to fully be yourself anyway, because you don't want to spend your life holding yourself back, being small, dimming down, and being a less than version of yourself, then we have to, number one, learn how to put the roots down and the anchor down inside of you. You have to come home to this thing inside yourself. I'm loving at the moment calling it belonging to yourself. A couple of clients recently have used that phrase and I've adopted it and I love it. Is you're learning to belong to yourself. Why is that phrase so powerful? Because if you're not belonging to yourself, who are you belonging to? And the answer is, when you don't have a solid sense of yourself and you don't have your anchor down and your roots down, you are typically looking to the world around you, trying to belong to the world and other people. Now, we know this because most people, when they're out in the world and they're afraid of being judged, and therefore they're trying to fit in and they're trying to adapt and they're trying to hold themselves back, it's so that they will avoid that judgment, but so that they will also please other people. So therefore we get into this validation cycle. I need to please others, I need to get acceptance from others, and I need to validate myself through others in order for me to start to feel like I'm enough, that I'm worthy, that I belong. So now we've put our worthiness, enoughness, and belonging and safety in the hands of random people. which is a very dangerous place to put it, because sometimes people have a good day, sometimes people have a bad day. Sometimes you'll please people, and sometimes there's no pleasing people. Sometimes people will lift you up and tell you you're amazing, and you'll feel a little bit more self-worth. The next moment, they don't, they're not having a good day, and they're not about it, and you're now feeling terrible, right? So we have to start to learn how to belong to ourselves, not belong to the world around us. When you go out in the world and people have opinions, they're allowed opinions, but you do not belong to them. You do not need their acceptance. You do not need their validation. You do not need for them to be pleased by you, because you shall validate yourself, please yourself, belong to yourself. And what this means is that you have to start on a practical note. You have to start building a very strong and stable relationship with who you really are. And if you're operating within mind noise and emotions and the things that have happened to you in the surface level of your life, it's really hard to do that, because you're relating to yourself as your traumas, your experiences, your circumstances, the noise in your mind and your feelings in your body. And those are things you have, but they are not who you are. Who you are is the conscious awareness that watches all of that. Who you are is the strong spirit that signed up to come into life and have this soul journey, what I call your soul odyssey. You are this magnificent soulful being, and you come from source, God, creator, divinity, universe, and you are inherently worthy, good enough, deserving, complete, connected, supported. You belong, and you are safe. And when you know that, because you have invested in this relationship with yourself, and you now belong to yourself, that is when it's like you have your anchor down. And other people can have opinions and not understand you, and it's okay. And you can go out there and do your career and your business and socialize and have your awesome lifestyle and speak your truth and be your authentic self and be quirky and weird and all the wonderful things that you are, whatever it is, whatever your gig is, and know that not everyone will love it, and that's okay. And it won't stop you. You won't chameleon yourself to fit in, and you won't suffocate yourself to avoid other people not liking it. Why? Because you're not looking to belong to them. You're not looking for their validation, approval. And if they happen to give negative feedback, you also know that is their world coming out of them, not you, right? So it's this change in dynamic where the attention goes inside of you, not outside of you. The attention goes on who you choose to be to yourself, not who you're trying to be for others. And your attention turns to, what is Source, God, Creator, Divinity, Universe's relationship with me, and what is my soulful self, not what do other human beings think, human beings are not reliable in terms of opinions. You don't want to be listening to other human beings, right? If we're all walking around with our own history and our beliefs and our thoughts and our feelings and all our stuff, right? There's not a good source for you to be validating yourself from. So if you want to get validation, go to where it matters and go to where it counts, which is the original place you came from and your true, authentic self within. And your soulful, authentic self, if you will sit still long enough to tune in to that part of you, will give you everything you need and will give you all the validation. It's the mind and the feelings and the trauma and the pain in our bodies that are saying less than, not enough, not worthy, not good, right? Don't belong, don't fit in, something's wrong with me. That is not the message you will get when you are anchored in and belonging to your true self, your soulful self. When you understand who you are, you know your soul, you get connected in, you have a deep relationship with this other dimension of life that you belong to, this beautiful spiritual connection, then that becomes the platform that you use, that becomes the foundation that you stand on, that becomes the anchor and the roots of your tree, if you like. So that is the first thing, is you don't feel safe until you stop looking to those people around you that are judgmental for caring what they think. And you will not stop doing that until you have a solid relationship with yourself. And you will not have a solid relationship with yourself until you realize you're not missing anything and you are worthy, are good enough, are complete, are supported, and you are exactly the way you are by design. You were born that way with all of this unique makeup. And once you embrace that and you belong to yourself, you will not fear being judged by others to the same degree. You will not like it, but that's okay, because that's just one dynamic of this ride called life that we have to accept. So, in summary, fear of being judged, fear is the surface. Underneath, it triggers all sorts of things about worry about being hurt and misperceived and misunderstood, which is really triggering core limiting beliefs that have us stuck in a loop, not believing in our true, powerful, authentic self, feeling less than. And as a result, we do all sorts of things to chameleon ourselves, please others, seek validation, hold ourselves back, dull ourselves down, try not to be seen, try not to be heard. And you are here for full expression. You are not here for any of that. All that stuff, all those patterns, all those behaviors, they're coping strategies. And they worked great when you were little, and they worked great when you were a young person because they kept you safe. And they helped you get through in lots of situations that potentially were not great situations for you. But right now, those are outdated strategies. It is outdated as a strategy to hold back, to dull down, to dim, to please others, to fit in. That is not what you're about, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be with me because I'm not about it. So life has brought us together because you are ready to be outside of that pattern, okay? We have to bring you to a deep place of belonging to yourself, not belonging to the world and other people and their random changeable viewpoints. We are not going to ride the storm on a rocky boat being flipped around by crazy waves. We are putting our anchor down, putting our roots down. And that comes to investing in your relationship with yourself, not your mind and feelings, but your deep self, your soulful self, your authentic self, and with that which you belong to. And it also means doing the healing of your mind and your emotional system for the wiring in your subconscious and conscious and the feelings in your body and in your nervous system that have accumulated over the years that don't work for you, that have you unanchored, that had you drift off from that foundation of your powerful self into I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, and all these other colourful and interesting learning lessons that we pick up along the way in life. So I hope this has been helpful. If you're experiencing this and you want more support, you can come over to my website, Bernadette, Logue.com. I've got lots of tools to support you with this. Everything you will need is in the Soul Odyssey program. And before I sign off from this podcast episode today, I did want to let you know that if you're listening to this, you're the first to hear that coming up, I have a brand new free workshop. So for many years, I've run free workshops on various topics, and this time is the first of a brand new workshop that I've developed that brings together the integration of all things soul and mind for a complete solution for living your soul-aligned life. It is starting on the 31st of August. It's only going to be on for 2 weeks, right? So if you are on my email list, you will already get an email with everything you need. If you're not on my email list, you can jump over to bernadettelogue.com/subscribe to get yourself signed up to the email list. That workshop, we're going to go through 3 really powerful sessions. It's going to be about reconnecting you to your soul, so getting you that deep anchoring into your authentic self. Number 2, we're going to sort out your mind. We're going to look at how do we clean up the conditioning of your mind and put your mind in service of your soul. So your mind is belonging to you, not belonging to the world around you. And then 3rd, we're going to talk about designing your soul-aligned life. It's going to be awesome. I've just finished creating it. We're putting all the final touches on it, and I'm excited to share it with you. So stay tuned for that. That's going to start on the 31st of August. You're the first to hear about it. Can't wait to share it with you. And I'm looking forward to sharing the next episode of this Practical Spirituality with Bea podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be in touch again soon. Thanks for listening to Practical Spirituality with Bea. I'll talk to you next episode for more spiritual advice for your everyday life, helping you align with your soul so you can live with purpose, fulfillment, and magic.